Hello, friends. Hi, I'm adjusting my light here. Oh gosh, I should have left it like I had it before. There we go. Hello, friends. Hi. Give me a second. I'm trying to get my light working. All right. I think that's good. Hi, everyone. Hi, Linda. How's the drive going? Hi, Red Show. Of course, you two would be the first ones here. Thank you, ladies. Thank you for showing up. Welcome, everyone. My name is Haspa. I am the owner of Preston Avery Design. I started my business to be able to stay home with my little boy, Preston Avery. He is the reason I named my business Preston Avery because I just had to, because he's the reason I started it. So thank you so much for tuning in. I'm getting close to the screen so that I can see who is there. So if we're just meeting for the first time, again, I am Haspa. The house is quiet. My husband and my son have gone to Chicky Monkey, which is like a play place down here in Texas, and they're giving me this time with you guys. And I'm so grateful that you are all tuning in. Last week I went live on the wrong page, so thank you for the grace and the patience for allowing me to come back on the right page this time. So I wanted to take a moment and explain why my segment is called Bleed Through. As you know, in the creative world, we work with furniture pieces that already have a history, and as we put on the new layers of paint and cover up the past, sometimes that past still seeps through, right? In the form of bleed through. Now, of course, we have solutions for it. We can use Salvation Solution to cover it up and keep moving. And sometimes we really can't do anything about that bleed through, and so we have to work with it, right? And so I feel like life is the same way. Our past, our history, our trauma, still shows up in our presence. No matter how hard we try to cover it up, it still shows up. And so we can decide to take action to deal with it, i.e. going to therapy, getting counseling, seeking medical attention, talking to friends. And sometimes we really can't cover up that past. It is a part of us, right? And so now we have to find out how to work with it. And so my objective with this segment is to share ways that I have taken my bleed through and used it for good. So how to overcome adversity through creativity. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. If you tuned in last week, I am learning to paint blend. So I am practicing on this jewelry box. I'm really new at this technique, so it's a hot mess right now. So you guys be patient with me. I'm learning, but I'm totally ready for the challenge. And so last week, if you tuned in, let me get a little comfortable. Can you still see me? Okay, good. So last week, if you tuned in, I shared my story of coming to America. And so many of you guys really enjoyed it. And today I was planning to do part 2 of that story. But, life is all about being flexible, and something happened to me today that I really couldn't go on and tell you that story, because I feel like what happened to me was God telling me that, Haspa, you need to share this, right? That what happened to you today, you must share, because someone else out there needs to hear it. And so, hey guys, hey Kathy, good to see you, everyone. And so I'm going to go ahead and blend this, but I do want to set this up for you really quick. So I went to lunch with my family. It's July 3rd. Tomorrow is a holiday, July 4th. So, we all have a long holiday. We are celebrating. So my husband and my son went out to lunch with my family. And while I was there, I got so excited because today's Sunday. I knew I was coming on live. I told them about me doing a segment on the DIY network. And I told them how big of a deal it is. And I told them how I'm going to be meeting all these new wonderful creators, and just such a marvelous opportunity, right? And I told them, I am going to be sharing my story. I'm going to be sharing about my journey in my life. Because when I met Dion at Creative Con, she encouraged me to share my story. So I told them I'm going to be doing exactly that. And you guys, they all totally minimized my story. They said to me, but your story's not that serious. That's not really a story. People have gone through so much more. Like, that's not even that big of a deal. And so I was really hurt Because yes, I understand that my story is not going to be the same as someone else's. But you guys, I've gone through things that were traumatic to me. Things that really, shaped me. Things that really broke me. And so for them to say that my story wasn't that serious really hurt. And then I went from being hurt to being angry. Because how dare they try to minimize my story? And so that's what I want to talk about today. How dare do people manage to minimize our stories, and how dare we let them? So that's what I want to talk about today. Not letting people minimize your story, not letting people minimize your trauma, because it is real. It doesn't matter how different it looks from someone else. Your trauma is absolutely real. And so I got my brushes here. I'm going to go ahead. Yes, Retro, you're so right. So like I said, I'm trying paint blending. I have some brushes here. I don't have the fancy tools yet because I'm doing Dev Ramsey for my family and my business. And so my business's budget right now is rice and beans and rice. If you know, you know, right? And so I am working on getting those fancy tools, and actually Retro is shipping me a brush and I'm super excited. But so I do have a few brushes here. I'm going to go ahead and try to blend some queen bee on this because this is mine, so I can really mess it up all I want, and I'm just going to learn from this. So anyway, as I'm sitting there at that table, I'm feeling really sad and really broken because these are my family. These are people who are supposed to love me unconditionally, and to them, my trauma is not that serious. And I'm thinking, how can that be? So how can I get the world to see my story if my own family doesn't even believe that my story is that serious? And then I realized something. It's my fault. You see, I have hidden a lot of my trauma to protect my family. I have held on to a lot of my hurt and a lot of my past so that I can protect the people in my life. And so it's my fault. And so that's another thing I want to talk about today. No longer are we going to minimize our trauma. No longer are we going to hide our trauma just to protect the people in our lives, because they will minimize it and make it feel so small that you are going to miss out on an opportunity to heal because you're not going to share. Because as I say that, I started questioning myself. And I said, well, I signed up to do the DIY network segment once a week. And I already told Karen and Kanis that I was going to be sharing my story, because when I submitted my DIY application, I shared a little bit of my story, and Karen and Debbie, they received it really well, and they're really excited to hear more. And so now I'm thinking, well, if my family thinks this is not serious, do I need to detour? Like, how are the people in the DIY community going to receive it? And so immediately I was second guessing and questioning myself and belittling my trauma, saying that it's not real. But that's not true. My trauma is real, right? And so I want to encourage you, friends, to make sure that you do not let people minimize your trauma, and stop hiding your trauma because you want to protect others. Because I realized the reason that my family doesn't know a lot of my trauma, and if you guys know, this is my American family, right? Because I grew up in Uganda, came to America when I was 11, if you watched last week's segment. So they don't know what happened to me when I was in Uganda. But because I don't want my dad to feel bad for not being there, I don't say a lot of stuff, right? Because I don't want him to feel like they failed me. I don't say what happened. I don't share a lot of the things that happened to me. And I realized one of the reasons it's taken me so long to heal is because I'm not being open. I'm not sharing. I'm not opening up about trauma. And it affects me. It affects my life. It affects my creativity. It affects my marriage. It affects everything that I do, because my past, in this case, there is no shellacking it. There's no salvation solution, that is going to cover this up. So I have to learn how to deal with it. I have to learn how to work with it. And that's why I've decided to really boldly step out and share my story, right? And it's going to be different. It's not, it's not the same. I know people have gone through worse, but this is what I've gone through. And someone out there needs to hear what I have gone through. Someone out there needs to know how I overcame. Someone out there needs to know how I have healed, right? And so that's my plan. That's my goal. as I share these stories, by no means am I seeking for empathy or sympathy, right? But rather to help someone out there to know that, hey, if this little skinny girl from Uganda can do it, so can you, right? Because you guys remember, I came to America when I was 11. I got on that plane when I was 11, going to a whole new world, and I had no idea what was awaiting me, right? But here I am, and fast forward many years later, I have a thriving business, I have a beautiful family, and I love my life. I love that I get to create with you guys. I love that I can sit here and work with products that are created by women, you know, who are overcomers just like myself. And the fact that you guys are tuning in to listen to me, right? And I don't take it for granted, but I also want to take Dion's advice and understand that it's about value and not vanity, right? So it's not about how silly I'm going to look when I share my story. It's about the value that it's going to provide, right? If someone needs to see me ugly cry, hopefully that won't happen. But if it does, if someone needs to see me ugly cry, then that's okay, right? Because it might help someone. It might help someone out there. And so that's my plan, and that's my prayer, and that's my hope, and that is my objective for this segment. And that's why I called it Bleed Through. Anyway, so I have this queen bee on here. How is it looking? I'm thinking of adding some bohemian blue or some hay sailor in it. And at some point, do some pink. So I think I'm going to go ahead and try the blue now. I don't know if I should wait for it to dry. Like I said, I'm trying this out. I'm new at it. Hey, oh, hey, Lisa. I'm seeing all of you guys. Thank you so much. Hope you don't mind seeing my face come towards the screen. I really can't see from back there. But anyway, so yeah, so that's what happened today. And it just really hurt me and it really broke me. And I felt that it was important for me to come. Ooh, that's really thick. I felt that it was important for me to really come and explain why I decided to tell my story, right? And why I will be showing up here every Sunday to tell you a story about my life. And sometimes it's going to be better than others, and sometimes it's just going to be real, and that's what needs to be shared. But anyway, so there we are. So that's my story about being angry, but I'm determined, like I said, to share my story. No longer am I going to hide my trauma to protect people in my life, because I have to prioritize healing, you guys. We have got to prioritize our healing, right? And so we cannot leave it up to others. We cannot be so concerned about how others are going to feel about what we have gone through. We must prioritize our healing. And so this is my way of doing it. And I hope and I pray that I can help you, and together we can all heal together, and we can overcome and create some beautiful stuff. And so now that that's over, I can go ahead and tell you part 2 of my coming to America story, because I think you guys really enjoyed part 1. So real quick, I'll recap if you missed part 1. I got on the plane November of 1999 to come to America, and it was really scary because I was 11. I didn't understand the language. Well, I understood the language. I didn't understand the dialect, because the people here spoke so fast and just so fine that it just really went over my head. I thought I was going to die when I got on the plane, and the flight attendant was doing the flight manual of what to do in the event of an emergency. But yeah, long story short, I made it to America, you guys. I landed in Houston, Texas, and I was reunited with my father after being apart for so many years. And at that time, he had remarried my stepmom. Her name is Sherelle Davis. And so she has now since then become my mom. So she's my mom. So whenever I say my mom, that's who I'm talking about. But for the sake of clarification, she was my dad's wife when he came to America. So now that we get off the plane and I've been reunited, we're in the car and we are going home. So my mom, Sherelle, asks me about my flight. And she goes, oh, how did it go? And so I tell her about the lady who was next to me on the plane, and she was making sounds like this. So she was snoring, but I didn't know that the word was snoring because I'd never heard that word before. And so my mom said, oh my goodness, she was snoring? And I said, snoring? What does snoring mean? She said, that. And so she did a sound too to let me know what snoring was. So then I remembered the lady who I'd been sitting on the plane with, God bless her, she was really kind. She helped me to feel comfortable. She was an older white lady, And so remember, I'm saying white because I'm coming from Africa, so like we don't see white people that often, right? But now I'm on a plane full of white people, and so I'm like this little black kid, the only one there, and so I'm feeling a little uncomfortable, right? But she went out of her way to make me feel extremely comfortable. And I remember one point she said to me, she tapped me on the shoulder, she said, "I'm going to sleep. If I start snoring, will you wake me up?" And I said, "Sure, sure." I don't remember her saying that. I don't know if that's what she said. Maybe I didn't understand it. But I think it's because I didn't know what the word snore meant, but I didn't want to look like I didn't know it, so I just said yes. So I said sure, and so bless her heart, she goes to sleep. And she starts snoring like a tractor, you guys. And so the people around us, they're looking at her, and I'm looking at her, and she's snoring really loudly. And I'm scared because I've never heard this before. I've never seen this before. I know it's weird, but I've never heard a person snore like that, you guys. And I had no idea that that was snoring. So everyone around us is just looking at this lady who's sleeping so soundly and making the most awful loud noise. And so she finally wakes up and she asks me, "Did I snore?" And I said, no. And then I'm in the car now and my mom is telling me that that was snoring. And I've never seen the lady again. I hope she never watches this. But you guys, I totally failed her. Because of the language barrier. But I do remember her because she was very kind to me. And as soon as the plane landed, she was the first person to say to me, "Welcome to America." And so I've never forgotten her, but I do remember that story. And of course now, you know, my husband snores really loudly. My 3-year-old snores every now and then. So I know what snoring is, but back then I didn't. But anyway, so the ride home is a little, you know, uneventful. They're asking me about my flight, how everything went, and I'm telling them it was good. And they take me out to eat because I guess they assumed I was hungry. And so we go to eat. So I have some, what am I using here? I have some Hay Sailor, but I think I want to put some more Queen Bee right here. So that's what I'm doing. So anyway, they ask me if I'm hungry. We go to eat, and guess where they took me? I don't know if everyone has this where they are, but do you guys have a Church's Chicken? Well, down here in Texas, we had a Church's Chicken, and that was my very first time going there. Now, here's why that's such a big deal. In Africa, well, I say in Uganda because I can't speak for other parts of Africa, but in Uganda, we only eat chicken on like special occasions because it is a luxury. So you can count on one hand the number of times you eat chicken, right, in a year. So it could be like weddings, holidays, and things like that, right? Karen says Church's Chicken is the best chicken. So we don't eat chicken like that. And when you do eat chicken, it's usually steamed into a broth or it's grilled. So I had never even had breaded fried chicken. And so we pull up at Church's Chicken and we go into the restaurant and my dad orders for me. I get a wing and a thigh. So you mean to tell me I get 2 pieces of chicken, where back home you get 1 piece of chicken? Also, get this, the chickens back home are raised without antibiotics. They're free-range chicken, right? So they run around all day. They're very muscular. The meat is really tough and they're very thin. And here I am in America and they give me a thigh and a wing, like really big pieces of chicken, and they were breaded and then fried. And the skin was so crispy and it was so good. It was so juicy. And then there was a biscuit that came with it. Now, I have to admit that back home, biscuits are not what you Americans call biscuits. Back home, a biscuit is that. It's a little sweet cracker that's really thin and crunchy. It's a biscuit, not like the bread biscuits that we eat here that I love so much now, especially the flaky layers. So that was new. Again, I'm learning that food's different down here. So I get this biscuit and then there's honey. So you get to put honey on the biscuit. All the honey you want. It comes in these little packets. Whereas back home, the honey is medicine. So you only drink honey as medicine. It's for medicinal purposes. You get a teaspoon, which is 5 ml. I know that because I have a 3-year-old and I have to administer medications all the time. But you get like a teaspoon of, honey. and it's only when you're sick. And I'm here in this new world, and I'm getting 2 pieces of chicken that are really big, and I'm getting this biscuit that's covered in honey, and I am thinking I have died and gone to heaven. How come no one told me that heaven was in America? All this time I had no idea. And let me tell you guys, it was so good. It was absolutely delicious. I loved it. And so the days that came after that, when we got home, anyone who came to visit our house, when they would ask my mom or my dad, hey, we're coming to see your daughter, what can we bring her? I didn't want Barbies, I didn't want dolls, I wanted chicken. They'll put me on the phone, oh, hi, I'm your mom's friend, I'm coming to visit you, what would you like me to bring you? Chicken. That was it. I just wanted chicken. So for those days leading up to like my first month in America, you guys, I ate so much chicken. It was so good. But also, I think it was such a big change in my diet that I went from being 104 pounds to being like 112 pounds in 4 weeks. Like I got a growth spurt in 30 days. And so it was the most funny thing ever. But anyway, so we eat this chicken, and then we go home, and they bring me to this house. We lived in a neighborhood called Keegan's Wood. I remember the street. It was Bristol Brook. I do remember the address, but there are people living there, so I don't want to say it. But I remember the address, and I remember the street, and I remember the house. This house was the most beautiful home that I had ever seen. It had pink bricks, and it had like mauve carpet, not pink. My mom will be sure to clarify it was mauve, which is a shade of pink, I think. And so we walk in, and it had a staircase, and it was 2 stories. And I had never lived in a 2-story house before. And so she takes me through the house and shows me around, and then she takes me upstairs, and she opens the door to a room, and she tells me that that is my bedroom. I had never had a bedroom to myself, ever, let alone had a bed. I had never had a bed that was not on the ground. And so here I am in this new place, and she walks me in, and she opens the door, and she's like, this is your room. Do you guys remember the movie The Lion King, where Mufasa takes Simba and shows him the Pride Land, and he says, everything that the light touches? You remember that scene? And Simba was like, you mean this will all be mine? Yes, that's exactly what I felt like when she showed me that room, and she told me that that was my bed. There was a sofa, there was a chair, there was an armchair in the corner. It was a pink armchair that was a rocker, and there was a bed. It was a full-size bed, and this room had 2 windows, and it was on the 2nd floor, and outside the windows were 2 big trees, you guys. It felt like a tree house. It was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen, and I could not believe that I was going to be living there. I could not believe that that entire room belonged to me, because back home, in certain times, depending on where we were, we would be living in one room, like a family of 4, where we lived in one room, and you had a curtain that would be like a privacy divider, and that would separate the places where you sleep. We would all live in one room. And so now you're telling me that this entire room is all mine. And man, it was, talk about getting beauty for ashes. My life was changing like right before my very own eyes, you guys. And I could not believe that this is what America was like. And I was just so happy and so excited. And so then comes the time my mom unpacks my suitcase, and she runs me a bath, because you got to remember, I've been traveling for several days now, right? All right, I keep talking a lot and I forget blending, but also I'm trying to let it dry in between. I don't know if that's what I should be doing, but like I said, I'm trying this out. So anyway, my mom runs me a bath, and so this room had its own bathroom. That's another thing I didn't tell you, where back home our bathrooms are outside. So like if you need to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, you better pray you can hold it, because it's scary out there going out in the dark. You don't know what's out there. And so the bathrooms were outside. But anyway, so she runs me a bath and sends me to the bathroom and closes the door and tells me to take a bath. Well, I don't think she realized that I had never seen that much water at one time. I kid you not. Because water is not as easily accessible in Uganda, where I was living. You would go about 5 miles one way and 5 miles back to fetch water. And so for you to go get 5 gallons of water, that was water that was supposed to last the whole day for the household needs. And here I am in this bathtub, and she's filled it halfway with water. And I'm standing there looking at the water, and I am scared to get in because I had never seen that much water in a container all at once. And I'm terrified to get in. So I stood in the tub and I took my bath just like we do back home. You usually have a little bucket. And so you stand up and you wash, and then you pour the water over yourself. So I did just that in the bathtub. And so eventually she came to check on me, and I think she might have figured out that maybe I was scared. So she told me, oh, sit, take a bath and relax. And I could not relax because I was scared. I'm looking at this on camera. I think I needed some blue in this corner. But I was scared and I couldn't do it. So luckily she didn't press the issue. She kept unpacking my suitcase. And then, nighttime came, and when it was time to go to bed, she came to me and she asked me for a hug. And I just looked at her because I had never heard the word hug. I didn't even know what that meant because I had never been hugged before. And so when she said, give me a hug, I didn't know what she meant. And so my dad came into the room, and so she said it to my dad. And so my dad explained in our native language what she meant. And so I gave her a hug, but I still had never hugged anyone before. I had never been hugged. And so I remember that being my very, very first hug. And, I respect and I love my mom, my stepmom. She's now my mom, but I respect her for giving me my childhood back, for just giving me the love that I never had before, for just letting me be a child. And she really changed my life, you guys. And the reason that I'm able to sit here and do all of this today is because I was able to have a life that I otherwise probably would not have had. And so I remember going to bed in my very own bed that night, and I slept really well. I woke up the next day, and she was sitting in the chair, the rocking chair, watching me sleep. And when I saw her sitting there, I hurriedly got out of the bed, because back home, how dare you sleep in? You don't let your elders wake up before you. As a child, you need to be up and running, get those chores started. Like, sleeping in is not a thing. So when I woke up and I saw her sitting there, immediately I was scared, thinking I'm in trouble. And she told me, go back to sleep. And I'm like, huh? What does she mean, go back to sleep? But I did. I went back to sleep, and I waited for my first full day in America. And I share all of this to say that life is scary, right? But on the other side of the things I was scared of lies our greatest opportunities. I was so scared to do this segment on the DIY network because I'm thinking, what can I share that hasn't been shared? What can I do? I'm not that skilled. I'm not that talented. I'm really new to this painting exhibit A. Right? But what do I have to offer? And I realized, I have been scared before. I have had to go across the world. I had to leave home to find home. Right? I had to leave what was comfortable to find what was beautiful. And I've had a wonderful life in America. I've been able to thrive. I mean, I am a Black woman owning a business in America, right? And my business is doing really well. And so I know that if it hadn't been for getting to that side of the world and stepping out of what was comfortable and going to the things that were scary and overcoming one scary challenge after another, I know that I wouldn't be where I am today. So I want to encourage you guys, don't be scared to step out. Get out of your comfort zone. Try something that scares you, because you will be amazed. You know, share your stories, share your trauma. Don't hide your trauma. Don't minimize your trauma. And then don't be scared to try new things. And I promise you, so much more, so much that is beautiful awaits you. So thank you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for letting me share. I hope I didn't go over my 30 minutes. I really appreciate all of you for allowing me to be here with you. I'm going to keep working on this, and that by next Sunday, hopefully I'll show you some progress. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next Sunday. Take care, guys.